So in this video, we are going to be talking about order of operations that we can find in Python. As we know, in mathematical operation perform following some specific order when some take precedence over the other. So when we are talking about an expression, it contains more than one operator, like we say when we added the variable n, which was holding the value of 17 to 25, which will return 42. So that's just a simple expression. So this expression contains more than one operator. The order of evaluation depends on the order of operation. So for mathematical operators, Python follow mathematical convention. The acronym PEMDAS is a useful way to remember the rule. Where P is okay, look at whatever we have in the parenthesis, which means whatever we have in the bracket, such as 3 minus 1. Then you look at what we have as the exponential value, which is the E. Here exponent is the next highest precedence. Then we look at M, which stands for multiplication. Then we look at D, which is division. Then we look at addition, then followed by subtraction. So these are the order of operation that we have in Python programming language because it follows the mathematical operator. So parenthesis, let's look at parenthesis. It has the highest precedence. Why? Because it is used to force an expression to evaluate in the order you want. When you want something to be computed first before moving to the order or before sending the value to the order, then we can put that in parentheses. So since expression in parentheses are evaluated first, such as if I have 2 multiplied by open parenthesis 3 minus 1, then close parenthesis, this should return 4 as my answer. Why is that? Is because I'm saying 2 multiplied by whatever value that this is being computed to be, such as if I have 3 minus 1, which will give 2, then 2 multiplied by 2 will return 4. But let's say for instance, if I don't have this parenthesis there, it will just say okay, 2 multiplied by 3, which is 6, then minus 1, which will return 5, which is not what I want. And I can also say if I have 1 plus 1 in parentheses, then star, as we can remember, it means exponential, which means power. So 1 plus 1, which is 2, 2 raised to the power of, then compute whatever I have in parentheses here, which is 5 minus 2, which will return 3, then 2 to the power of 3, which will return 8. So the order of operation depends on parentheses in this case, where whatever we have in the parentheses are being evaluated first before the value is being sent to the other operators. So we can also use parentheses to make an expression easier to read, such as minutes multiplied by 100 then divided by 60, even if it doesn't change the result. Okay, so exponentiation has the next highest precedence. As you can see here, if I have 1 plus 2 times 3, it will solve whatever I have on the right first, which is 2 to the power of 3, which is 8. Then 8 will be returned by saying 1 plus 8, then which will give 9, not 27. Like if I have 1 plus 2, which will return 3, then 3 to the power of 3 will give 27. Not that way. So here it is not in parentheses, but this operator have higher precedence over addition. So if I also have 2 multiplied by 3 raised to the power of 2 is 18 and not 36. We'll look at this when we are working with our code. Now multiplication and division, these are the next one that we can work with, which is if I have something like 2 multiplied by 3 then minus 1, it will first solve 2 multiplied by 3, which is 6, then subtract 1 from it, which will return 5, and also not 4. Not 4 in the case of 3 minus 1, which will return 2, then multiply by 2, like I have here. Because this is so because it is in parentheses, which will take higher precedence over this multiplication. Then here I can also have 6 plus 4 divided by 2. Then this will work with 4 divided by 2 because division have higher precedence over addition. 4 divided by 2 will give 2. Then 6 plus 2 will now return 8 and not 5 by saying 6 plus 4 10 divided by 2. So operators with same precedence are evaluated from left to right. Operators with same precedence, when they have the same precedence, they are evaluated from left to right. That means here addition, where is it again? Where I have addition, if I have addition, let's say 2 plus 2 plus 2 will return my 6 because the operations there have the same precedence. So they are always evaluated from left to right, except exponentiation. So in the expression degrees 4/2 multiplied by pi, the division happen first and the result is multiplied by pi. If I have anything here, let's say for instance, if I have 10, 10 divided by 2 will give 5. So this division will take place first before multiplication, because division and multiplication have the same precedence. As you can see here, multiplication and division is together, then followed by addition and subtraction, which have the same precedence, except parenthesis and exponentiation, which have different precedence. So looking at this, we can look at you don't have to work very hard. You just look at the expression and use parentheses to make it obvious. So if you are not very sure on the precedence of which operation is going to be performed first, then it is better you use parentheses just to force whatever you are trying to do. Since you know what you are actually trying to achieve, you should use parentheses to take them together. Then you don't have anything to worry about the precedence of the operators. So now let's go into our code and see some of this in practice. Okay, I activate my Python interpreter by typing Python. Then I'm going to be having, let's say for instance, 2 multiplied by 3, then raised to the power of 3. What will this return? If you can guess that, it will say, okay, 2, then multiplication and what? Exponentiation, which means we have two operators here, multiplication, exponentiation. Which one will take precedence first? By pressing enter, it will return 54, which means exponentiation take place first by saying 3 to the power of 3, which will return 27, then multiplied by 2, which will return 54. This here has already illustrated that exponentiation have higher precedence over multiplication. But I can also do this in another way by putting it in parentheses by saying 2 multiplied by 3. I want that to be evaluated first before it is now raised to the power of 3. Then this should return 2 to the power of 3, which is 8. Then 8 to the power of 3, which is 216, which is different from what I have here because I have been able to force 2 multiplied by 3 to compute first by using parentheses. So now let us work with multiplication and division. Here, if I have 10 divided by 2, then multiplied by 3, 10 divided by 2 is 5, then the value 5 multiplied by 3 should return 15. And as we know in Python, when we perform any division, it will return a float number. So here it returns 15.0, which is 15 if it to be converted to an integer. This is 15, which perform the division first. I can also force this to work differently by saying, okay, I want 10 to be divided by whatever I have to be 2 multiplied by 3. Forcing this in parentheses, then the result should be different, which is 1.6666, which means 10 divided by 6 should be 1.6666. That is what this return here. So looking at the next one, if I'm having something like let's say 20 minus 5 plus 6, then what should this return? It return 21. Why is it that it return 20 minus 5, which is 15, plus 6 will return 21? Here, these operators have the same precedence, so it doesn't matter which one is computed first. If I'm to force 5 minus 5 plus 6 to be computed first, it will return 1, then 1 added to 20 will also return 21. So if they have the same precedence, if an operator have the same precedence minus an addition, which they have, it will always compute from the left to the right, like you are always having it in mathematics. So that for numbers. We have several other operators such as getting the remainder of any value. If I have something, let's say I have 21, then I want to divide it by something, let's say divided by 5, but I don't want the answer, I only want the remainder. This should return 1, which means if I divide 21 by 5, it will return 1, which means 21 divided by 5 will give 4, then remainder 1. That is the return that I'm having here. So this is another operator, but we are just coming across this, which is known as the modular operator. It is used in getting the remainder after any division have taken place. I can also have 50 divided by 5. This should return 10.0, but I can also have 50 divided by 6. This should return 8.3, but I don't want a decimal number. I only want to get the remainder to see if this is a factor of 50. Then I can say 50 module of 6. Then this should return only the remainder, which is 2, which means if I divide 50 by 6, I will be getting 48, then the remainder will be 2, which is what I have here. So that is for modular operator. Now let us look at string operator. In general, you can't perform a mathematical operation on strings even if the string look like numbers. So the following are illegal. Let's say for instance I have a string 2 and minus 1, which minus is the operator here, but this 2 is in single quotes. Likewise this one, it will return an error, which means it is illegal. I cannot also say x divided by easy. This is a string, so it will also return an error. And I cannot say third as a string multiplied by a charm as a string. It will also return an error. But there are two exceptions, such as addition and multiplication operators. These operators work on string differently. The addition performs string concatenation, which means it joins the string by linking them end to end. Let's say for instance I have first, which is having the value of truth. Then I have the variable second, which is having the value of error. Then first concatenating second. Here it performs string concatenation. I won't say addition. String concatenation means when you join two strings together. So here I'm having truth and Webler. So this will give truth Webler all together without any space in between, because I haven't indicated for any space here. So addition is used to perform string concatenation on strings, which means if I have a string such as 2 and another string such as 1, and this is said to be addition, then it will return 1, which is 21 as a string and not as an integer. So that is for addition. Let's look at what we have when we are dealing with multiplication. So this multiplication operator also work on string. It performs repetition. That means if I want to repeat some string more than once, like I have here spam multiplied by 3, is going to bring output spam without space in between. So if one of the value is a string, the other has to be an integer. If I want to perform multiplication on string, it's not going to concatenate. It's just going to say, okay, this string, multiply it by 3. But there's an exception. This second value here have to be an integer for this to work. If this second value here is not an integer, if it is a string, it will also return error. So The use of plus and star make it easy by analogy with addition and multiplication, just as 4 times 3, which is equivalent to 4 plus 4 plus 4. We express spam, 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 which is going to give spam together. So let's go into our code and see how that works. Here, if I have a string such as 2, then I have another string, let's say addition, such as 1, then this should only return 1 as a string and not 21 or not 3, because 2 is a string here because it is um, enclosed in single quote. Likewise, 1 here is also enclosed in quotes, which means 2 is a string, 1 is also a string. By adding this, I'm trying to concatenate this string to this string, which will return 21. Let's look at another one. If I have hello and which is a string, then I have my addition, then I say word, which is also a string, then I hit enter, it will say hello world without space in between, and this is only outputting it as a string here with this quote. But if I don't want this word to be together, I want space in between, then what I have to do should be different. I will say hello, then I will give a space, then close this parenthesis, which means hello together with space, then the addition sign, and I'll just say world, close this quotation, then hit enter. It should return hello world with space in between. So let's look at the uh, multiplication of string by an integer. If I have the string hello and giving it some space so that they won't be joined together, I say multiply by 5, which means repeat this hello 5 times. Then I should be having hello, 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 hello 5 times. So let's look at another stuff here where I have the word spam, then without space, and I say multiply by 3. This should return spam, spam, spam without space. Now let's make an error intentionally by trying to multiply two strings together. Let's say for instance I have spam as a string. This is a string. Then I'm saying multiply by spam again, which is also going to be a string. So trying to multiply this together will return an error because I cannot multiply two strings. I have to make sure that the first one is the string that I'm trying to multiply by an integer for it to appear more than once. So that is about the string operators and order of operation in Python programming. Thank you.